Hello, Brains! If you haven't heard, my book is done. You can now buy this book everywhere books are sold. Hello, Brains! This video is the anti-time management video. I am very tired this week. It is Thursday, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to make it through the day tomorrow. But I'm not tired so much because I had so much to do. I'm tired because I had to do all of it at a certain time. This episode is sponsored by Babble. Babble is one of the top language learning apps in the world. It's really engaging, and it's designed by actual language teachers, so the lessons are set up in a way that helps you truly learn.
Non ho capito. Yeah, I'm going to be using that a lot in Italy. Non ho capito. I didn't understand.
I finally got to take my trip to Italy, and I was surprised how well what I learned translated into IRL conversations. My friend Danny and I were traveling with a tour group, but my Italian was good enough that we were confident venturing off on our own. Dining, shopping, making friends with the locals. We even got invited to karaoke. Babble also has podcasts, which I was listening to during my trip to learn more about the cities we were visiting and get insider tips and tricks. I had an amazing time in Italy. My friend kept telling me how glad she was that I could speak Italian. It was really cool. Do you know what you want?
No.
It was super cool to put what I'd learned into practice. In Venice, I got to have my first tramezzino, which, by the way, was the best tuna sandwich I have ever had in my life. I could understand the language well enough that I could even understand the jokes. If one of your goals this year is to learn a new language, I highly recommend Babble. I'm going to keep learning more personally and keep you posted on that journey. If you'd like to join me, click the link in the description or scan the QR to get 60% off your subscription during their New Year's sale. And let me know what kind of language you want to learn and why. And now, let's talk about time. I've talked about time management on this channel before. Okay, I've talked about it a lot. And for most of the time that I've been trying to do this channel, I've focused on how to get better at it because it is something that I have always struggled with, and I'm not alone. It's really, really common for people with ADHD to struggle with time management. Dr. Russell Barkley did some research on this and found that 98% of people with ADHD report struggles with time management. 98%. 98% of people don't self-report liking ice cream. That's actually a true fact. 96% of people say that they like ice cream. 98% of people with ADHD say that they have trouble with time management. That sounds like a lot, but then it's like, well, but doesn't everybody struggle with time management? No, they do not. In this same research, he found that only 8% of the general population said that they struggled with it. I wrote an entire chapter in my book about time management, specifically how to see time, because as Dr. Barkley explains, those with ADHD are essentially time blind, or I like to call it time nearsighted. We don't have a very sharp sense of time. We have a fuzzier sense of how much time has passed. We also have a harder time telling how long something is even going to take us. There are a million reasons why people with ADHD struggle with time management, but right now I want to talk about how it's really important for people with ADHD to not just try to get better at time management and get everything on their schedule and manage their time, but it's actually really important for us to have time where we don't have to think about time. Everything we do to manage our ADHD, to manage our executive function difficulties, takes cognitive energy. And time management is such a struggle for many of us that it takes a ridiculous amount of mental energy. There are often some extremes that people with ADHD go to just to not be late. If we have an appointment at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and that appointment is important, we have to be on time, we might be afraid to do anything that morning because we are afraid to be late. So having there be days where we don't have to worry about what we're doing when, sometimes those days can be the most productive days for us because we can focus on what we need to do as opposed to making sure that we are doing it when we need to do it. When we think about time management, we think about productivity, right? We're not necessarily more productive when we're doing things on a certain time schedule. In fact, we can end up putting a lot of energy into maintaining that certain time schedule and not actually get as much done. There are other options. Someone from the community submitted a quote for the book that I love about how there are actually different types of time. And the Western world operates on Chronos time, which is chronological. 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., you decide what you're doing at what time. But there's another way of operating, which is Kairos time. Kairos time is you do things when they need to be done. Chronos time might be, okay, I'm going to go to the store at 7 p.m. Kairos time is, I'm going to go to the store when I'm out of bananas and I need to go to the store. Kairos time is just as valid, but it's not how we're used to operating in the Western world. Another option that I talk about in the book is to sequence instead of schedule. Rather than saying, okay, I'm going to do this at 10, this at 11, this at noon, this at 3 p.m. What we can do instead is say, hey, these are the things that I want to get done today in this order, and then just roll through that list. When I waited tables, that's how we operated. It wasn't, I'm going to bring this person their drinks at 7:03 p.m. It was, I'm going to take their order, and then I'm going to drop that off to the bartender. And then when the drinks are ready, I will bring the drinks to the table. And that's Kairos time. Yeah, we don't want to take like 5 hours to do that. Otherwise, people get very mad. But we can still do things pretty effectively and pretty efficiently by doing them in order, as opposed to doing them at a certain time. I also think it's really important that we have times where we don't have to do anything in any order at any time. We can just wander, because we do use a lot of executive function trying to be places when we're supposed to be there, do things when we're supposed to do them. And sometimes we need a break from that. We need to be able to let our brain off leash a little bit. And we need downtime. We need to be able to be creative. I used to have so many cool things that I would do on this channel that I don't do anymore. And part of why is because I am overscheduled. Everything is scheduled at a certain time. And so I don't have time to, to have like brilliant shower thoughts of like, it'd be really cool. It would be really cool if, and then go, I don't know, make finger puppets. I don't do that anymore because it's not something that I would think to schedule. And it's not something that I probably could schedule. It's really hard to schedule, like, be creative at 3 p.m., have a brilliant idea. But if you have space in your day where you can have those brilliant ideas, and then you're not going to miss a meeting to go and do them when your brain wants to, that's really good. Because for people with ADHD, we are able to ride the wave, is what it's called. If we have a sudden burst of energy or inspiration to do something that we otherwise might not have felt like doing, thought to do, or whatever, it can be really effective for us to be able to take advantage of that energy in the moment and go ride the wave. If I did not have anything scheduled right now, like shooting this video, I could have had a brilliant idea and then gone to Staples and gotten a bunch of office supplies and come back and made a really cool piece of content. But instead, I had a thing. I knew that I needed to film this video, so this is what I'm filming. I did want to do a video about this topic. I think it's an important video. At the same time, if I don't leave any time in my day or my week for having random thoughts and random ideas and pursuing those, I'm not going to be as creative. It's not only better for our well-being, it's better for our creativity. It can be better for our productivity to have times where we're not worried about time management. I've talked about time management on this channel a lot. I don't think I've ever complained about it. So let me do that for a second. If I had the week that I had this week, every week, I would quit my job. I actually would, because I don't like it. I don't like feeling boxed in by time. I had an interview with Eric Tivers years ago where I talked about that, like feeling kind of allergic to having a schedule at all. Eric asked me what comes to mind when you think of a schedule. And this was my answer.
When you think of a schedule, what is that to you?
A prison? I am so afraid of not having any spontaneity in my life, and that's gonna make me less fun. Yeah. So I talk about this in the book as well. I had to come to terms with the fact that I could incorporate time management. I could learn some of these strategies that could be part of my existence, and maybe that would help, because then maybe I wouldn't be doing things at 3 a.m. when I actually needed to sleep. Maybe I could have some sort of routine, and that was good. But I kept working at it. I kept trying to optimize even more and be even more efficient. And I ended up overscheduling my day. And what ends up happening is I end up miserable. Yeah, I get a lot done, but at what cost? I'm not enjoying my life anymore. And so I'm trying to get back to a place where I'm not so focused on what am I doing when all of the time, because it's exhausting and it does take away some of the fun. I used to be able to look at the things that I needed to do and go, what do I feel like doing right now? What does my brain want to do right now? And be able to pursue that. And I think for a lot of people with ADHD, when we're excited about something, when we're engaged with something, we're going to perform better. I still try to give myself some of that freedom, but lately I've been so everything has to be done exactly when my calendar says it has to happen. I'm exhausted and I'm miserable, and I'm not getting to do a lot of the things that I really value. I'm not getting to work on what my brain feels like working on in that moment. I'm not getting to be as creative. It can be really helpful for us to have these time blocks in our calendar, especially if we have some sort of accountability, because it can add a sense of urgency to something that can help us focus and help us get it done. but it can also feel a little bit like running from a bear. Our research consultant, Dr. Patrick LeCount, has this analogy that I really love, which is like, our bodies are meant to run from a bear occasionally, the occasional bear, not every day. You shouldn't be running from a bear every day. Let me rant a little more. I was once fired from a job for being 4 minutes late. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I did a really good job at work once I got there, but because it was 4 minutes late, like that was enough to be terminated. Yes, because we struggle with time and we live in a society in which time matters, most of us, it is important for us to learn some strategies, especially some ADHD-friendly strategies for managing our time. Building up our time wisdom is a really important one. Getting a better sense of how long things actually take us, because if we're trying to schedule our days with a brain that thinks that this 2-hour task is actually going to take us 10 minutes, that's going to fall apart real quick. And that's what used to happen to me. I would take the time to lay out this entire plan for my week, and then it would immediately fall apart. Well, it was falling apart because how long I thought something should take me and how long it actually took me were two very different things. And so one of the things that ADHD coach Eric Tivers taught me was to actually track how long tasks took me. Guess how long something was going to take me, write that number down, and then time it. Start a count up timer so I could see how long it actually took. And it did not take me very long to realize I was consistently vastly underestimating how long things would actually take me. Building up my time wisdom in that way, and also starting to get a sense of like what sort of things were worth my time, helped me plan my time better. I think it's also really important for us to use a calendar. If something is happening at a certain time and needs to happen at that time, we need a place to put that. Otherwise, there's a pretty good chance that we will forget about it. We do need to have some sort of calendar, some sort of schedule, some sort of way of putting things in this schedule that will hopefully help us actually show up when we need to show up. I think we also need to learn how to work with our brain's natural tendencies, which are to operate more in Kairos time. Everyone that I know with ADHD is generally pretty good at going, oh, we're out of bananas. I should go get some bananas. We might not have the motivation to do it, but like that cue is there, and then we can go do the thing. So doing things when it makes sense to do them is something that I think a lot of people with ADHD are a little bit naturally better at than doing them at an arbitrary time. Because a lot of us are like, well, why should I do this thing at 12 p.m.? Like, why should I do this thing when it's not due for 3 weeks, right? We operate a little bit better when we are doing things when it feels like it makes sense to do them. Should we maybe do some things a little bit sooner than our brains are telling us we should? Sure. And we're also pretty good at doing things when we're excited about them. When an idea pops into our head, like we pursue that idea, and that's really cool too. And then also, just give ourselves occasionally time to wander, because no matter what, we do live in a world that is going to expect us to be certain places at certain times. We're gonna need breaks from that too. And that's one of the things that I realized for myself is I need not just to get better at time management, but I also need time where I don't have to think about time. If I don't take that time, my brain will take it anyway. I'll start rebelling against the things on my schedule. I will start doing the whole revenge bedtime procrastination thing and staying up late so that I can do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. I think we often feel guilty or like we're bad somehow for not sticking to our schedules, for not scheduling out everything, for not being as efficient and productive and stuff like that. But maybe what's efficient for us looks a little bit different. Doing something at a certain time all of the time is not the only way to get stuff done. The way that we work naturally isn't wrong. It's just not always compatible with the rest of the world. And so if there are ways to make our natural tendencies work a little bit better with the expectations that people have of us, I think we owe it to ourselves to look into that. You can ask your boss for or give yourself meeting-free days where you have stuff that you can work on, but you don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. You can let yourself get into a deep flow or hyper-focus and work on one thing really deeply. Or you can bounce around to all of the different things that you want to do and not really have to worry about what you're doing when. You can do things in order. You can just make yourself a checklist of the things that you want to get done and like see how fast you can do them. So here are some questions I think it's worth asking. If you're scheduling something at a certain time, why? Does it need to be done at that certain time? Sometimes it might make sense to schedule things at a certain time, right? Like you are meeting with another human and you need to know what time to meet, or you really want to get started on something ahead of time, and you need that sense of urgency to kick you into gear. Set a certain time, maybe get a body double, maybe use some other strategies, set timers, whatever. And if it's deep work, if it's creative work, it can be good to have time carved out. Another question to ask is, are there times in my day or week where I can make it so that time doesn't matter? Another one of the quotes from the book was from a teacher who talked about how 2 nights a week, she told her family, like, don't expect me home at a certain time. And those were her days to like wrap up anything that needed to be wrapped up. And she didn't have to finish and leave by any certain time. So it eased the pressure a little bit. Another one is, are there time-related accommodations that it might make sense for me to ask for at school or at work? At school, you can ask for extra time on tests. Maybe, especially in college, you can schedule your classes for the most part at a time that works better for you in terms of like when you're most alert, when you're able to focus your best. At work, you can ask for a flexible schedule. You can ask for meeting-free days, or if you work for yourself, you can make sure that some days are meeting-free. That's not something that I've done for a while and I need to do, where there are days where you don't have to do anything at a certain time, or you aren't supposed to meet anybody at a certain time, and you have a little bit more flexibility. You have a little bit more freedom. Another one is like, if you are beating yourself up for not sticking to a schedule or not doing something at a certain time, does it matter? Like, does it matter? Or is it this arbitrary thing? Sometimes putting things on calendars is just to carve out the time for you to be able to do it, just in case, so that you have that time if you need it. But if it turns out that that time would be better used for something else, that's fine. I probably went over time. You know what? I don't care. Wait, I have something. Oh man, I have to care. I have something I have to do. Dang it. Oh no, I'm fine on time. End rant, end passionate, I don't know, speech. I'm at the point where like I finished writing this book and it ends with how to change the world for a reason. A lot of what we expect of ourselves is for ourselves to change and for us to adapt to the way that the world wants us to be and the way that other people in the world are. Maybe we can meet in the middle just a little bit. Maybe we can ask for a little bit more space for ourselves in the way that we naturally operate as well. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for supporting me while I made this channel, wrote the book, create content like this. If you want to buy my book, there's links in the description. Thank you again to Babble for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description or scan the QR to get 60% off your subscription during their New Year's sale. I'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, click all the things, and I will see you next video. Bye, brains.